Hello and welcome to Couples Talk. I'm Jonathan Decker.
I'm Alicia Decker.
And joining us today are Jason and Tammy Hewlett, who are internet sensations, motivational speakers, entertainers, and they are just here to leave their mark on the world and help people, which we really relate to and love. You've been a treasure to visit with the past couple of episodes that we've had of this. But now it's the Holy Grail. It's the pièce de résistance, raising teenagers. I worked with at-risk teenagers for years. I thought I was totally ready. I'm not ready. We're not ready. Please help us.
Yeah, we're not ready either. We don't know what's happening. But the truth is we've just come into this teenage world all of a sudden because 15, 14, 13-year-olds all of a sudden right in the middle of the pandemic quarantine.
The three
in 26 months are now
26
three
months.
teenagers.
Yeah.
We
13,
thought it was
14,
crazy
15.
when they were little. Like, that was crazy, for sure.
Yeah.
This is a whole other level of crazy.
Take me back to the little crazy, please.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it? There's similarities, though. There are tantrums and high emotions. They're just bigger now and have hormones, right?
And generally, if there's a problem, they need to eat, sleep, or a hug. They just may not want any of those things.
That is so well said. You're right. And, you know, as parents of teens, we're constantly going, what did we not do right?
Yeah.
Or something, right? And not wanting to throw our children under the bus. I mean, these are just amazing, wonderful kids. We know that they're incredible people.
So if there's a problem, it must be us.
It must be us, man.
Yeah.
What's wrong with us?
So when I married Alicia, she had a son from a previous marriage. He was 3 years old at the time when we dated and married. And he was the most positive, chatterboxy, social person. Literally his entire life would just introduce himself to strangers, strike up a conversation. I worried about his safety. I don't know if we worried about I worried about his safety.
Oh, all the time.
Because-
I'm like, if someone was like, do you want a lollipop if you come with me? He'd be like, yeah, sure, I'm in.
He'd be like, will
get
there
in
be
the van."
stimulating conversation? Like that was like, he was always just super positive and very talkative, and it was really hard to just get him to be quiet. Like that was the thing, is getting him to be quiet. And then he turned into a teenager, and it was like Bizarro World version of him, where now he's just like kind of moody and communicates in grunts.
He grunts a lot.
He does. And he's like absorbed in Minecraft. And we talk about school, and he's like zero interest in making new friends, you know? And he's still, I mean, we get the flashes. The loving kid is still there. Like the person is still there, but there's a whole different creature that's coming out. What transitions have you been seeing? Because your kids aren't going to watch this. My kid's not going to watch this. We can speak freely. We're all friends here.
We can speak freely. Well, we've seen so many transitions, and we've seen them all at once with three people
Yeah.
that we once thought we knew. And
It's enough to make your head spin.
yeah, for sure. And they're seeing us differently as well. I'm sure they're wondering what happened to those parents that we had. I would imagine.
Yeah.
But, you know, so what's their perspective? I always think of it that way as well.
That, or they're like, I now see you for what you really are.
Right, yeah.
Dictator.
That's right. So, I mean, we've seen changes in behavior, in tone of voice, in usage of social media now, which is a very disturbing thing, even after we watched Social Dilemma, and we were like, maybe we shouldn't let them have these platforms, and then the next thing we know, we're like, put it on your app, put it on your phone, go for
No,
it.
we hadn't let them have it, and they're 15, and finally, you know, everybody has it. Why can't we have it? We watched Social Dilemma together as a family, and then we let our kids have it. We don't know what's wrong with us. Something's wrong with us.
I think you're preparing them for adulthood to make their
And
own choices.
that's right.
Right, and that was our intention, and so
Well, and the power of watching it together and having an open conversation
Right.
about it.
and that's
Huge
what we do.
conversations.
Have open conversations, and we gave them a few privileges on a couple of them, and they know their rules, and if they break the rules, then they have consequences, and we've had some break the rules, and now they don't have it anymore. So I think it's important to stay on top of it. Once you give them those privileges, to be checking in with them on those privileges
Yeah.
and monitoring what they're doing, because they're doing a lot that a lot of parents, I'm finding, have no idea about. So we just, you know, keeping tabs on them and just having the open conversations, not getting
Yeah.
upset and, you know, yelling at them for what they've done, but talking about talking about it and resolving issues.
Do you have a situation where you're willing to have an open conversation and they are grunting? Do you have grunters in your family?
Oh yeah, no, they don't grunt. They breathe heavy. They do this like, you know, and you're like, man, I know what you're saying by doing that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, our 13-year-old is a grunter,
okay.
heavy breather.
Yeah, heavy breather.
He's a mouth breather.
Yeah, yeah.
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 It's been so cool to watch at the same time because you're like, well, I guess they're becoming themselves, right?
Yeah.
Their personalities are showing up. It's just this extreme version. It's like a fire hose version of who they're going to be. And then it's just going to be carved out into this beautiful Michelangelo sculpture, we are hoping.
It's a constant pull, like push and pull between dependency and independence that starts at infancy and, you know, presumably ends in adulthood, unless you're living with your parents practicing your impressions. But
Hey, man, it was awesome.
Jason's been very clear with our children that they need to have a plan for when they are out of high school. But you're not living in your parents' basement. Like, what's your plan? Get motivated, get working on something, have a plan, because we want you to be successful adults
And
moving
we have
out of our house. You
We
can
have
always come
family
back.
that lives with the parents still.
oh,
you
there's
know?
nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But the transition is, you know, when you're an adult, if you're living here, you're paying rent.
Right.
Exactly.
And I'm not a parent, I'm a landlord.
That's right.
And it may seem like I'm a parent, but you know, landlords have rules too. And these are the rules of the house, and this is what you're going to be paying me. And it's probably a better deal than you would get elsewhere, but it is a shift in the relationship. But that between dependence and independence, of course, classically, kids think they're ready for independence before they perhaps really are, because they don't have the experience, but they want the freedoms, and they think they want the responsibilities sometimes, and sometimes they don't. And the parents are riding the brake. And you have this tension of one person's got the foot on the gas and the other person's got the foot on the brake, and it's just like this constant grinding. And that's not every case. It wasn't that much of that with me and my parents, but I definitely saw it with my siblings. So how do you navigate, and a question for you as well, because I see you with our teenager and I'm over here taking notes. How do you alleviate that so that there is respect for the burgeoning adulthood of the child, while still eliciting respect for you're not quite an adult yet. It is my responsibility to guide you. What are your thoughts?
I was going to say,
It's for the group.
I don't know who.
Anybody.
That's a really good
That's
question.
a great
Give
question.
us an answer,
And
please.
I want to hear yours first. Let's hear it, Lee.
So these are my thoughts as I've had this interesting experience of raising 5 kids that have an age gap of 10 years, right? And studying neurological development, and because I'm the type of person that always goes to the science, that like neurologically their brains are developing in very similar ways as teenagers as they were as toddlers, right? So you just have so many synapses firing. And synapses that fire together wire together. And that's why it's so important what they're exposed to and the behavior habits they have as teenagers.
Yeah.
Because those, I mean, I know we don't use wagons anymore, but it's like those behavior patterns go very deep at that young age. And that's why getting into addictive behavior of any sort can be so dangerous, whether it's substances or pornography or even social media, because it's very addictive.
Yeah.
Because it creates those very deeply ingrained
Neural pathways.
in their brain. But they're also doing something that was very similar to what they did as toddlers as far as interacting with the world around them. So as toddlers, they're separating from this place of being an infant or a baby and being completely provided for by their parents to, oh, I'm my own individual being and I can walk places on my own and I can tell my parents no. And you know what I mean? And they're figuring out, how do I fit in my family in relation to every other person, right? That's the toddler development. And they're learning values and rules and right and wrong, and that's all happening as toddlerhood. It happens again in teenagerhood, because they're saying, oh wait, who am I outside of my family? Who am I in the world as a whole, and what are my values, and what are the rules that I believe in, because I've grown up in a household where I've been taught or not taught, as it were, depending on an individual's experience. Here's the way the world works. Here's the dynamics.
Yeah.
And so they are deciding that for themselves. And it's not a single decision. Like it's a journey. It's over the whole teenage journey that they're saying, okay, what are my values? What do I believe in? And that comes regularly in conflict against, what they're taught, or they're trying that out.
Yeah, trying on different roles, different hats.
Right. And because going back to the neurological development, that's why emotions run so high, is because of so many synapses firing at a time. That's why everything seems so intense.
Yeah.
And
way intense.
Everything's dialed up.
All emotions in high school are dialed up to 11.
Yeah, everything's dialed up to an 11. And so, I mean, I had this experience. We were at a family reunion, extended family reunion, and I had my 2-year-old and my 12-year-old. They were both losing it. They were both losing it.
I remember this.
And
I'm like, this looks pretty much the same, actually.
Yeah, their behaviors were so similar. They were both emotional. They were both exhausted. And they need more sleep. The teenagers need more sleep.
Surly.
They're both surly. And so I sent everybody else to go and do the fun family thing. And I said, okay, we're going to stay here. We're going to hug. We're going to talk. And then everybody's going to take some naps, like in that order. And so that I'm grateful for the experiences that we have. But so often that was a pivotal moment for me, was recognizing the behavior patterns between my 2-year-old and my 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And when the teenager's being surly, a lot of the times, I went back to my same set of rules I had with a toddler. If they were being surly, like, feed them, water them, hug them, and have them take a nap, right? And like do those, make sure those 4 bases are covered. And then let's move on and talk about whatever challenge that we're experiencing, because it's often exacerbated by one of those needs. And the fact that teenagers ask for love in usually the most unloving ways.
Yeah, it's true.
That was so awesome what you just said, because that made me think of so many examples with our family, and the times when they're flipping out and we're starting to flip out.
Yeah.
Is like, can we do a one-on-one with this child? Is there a way to get this boy in this car and go driving? Because that's what he needs. He just needs to listen to Simon and Garfunkel at full blast, or whatever it is, right?
Is that what he needs, or is that what we want him to need?
We've trained them to like the music we like.
Want these things.
That's
I
right.
need them.
Like, we used to watch Ace Ventura together, and if they didn't laugh at the right part, I'd pause it and I go, why wasn't that funny, or why was it? So
I'm not entirely convinced that's a healthy dynamic, but I'm going to let it slide. Speaking of toddlers and teenagers in development, toddlers want to touch everything. Teenagers generally want to touch everybody. And that's kind of how that works. Here's what I see along the lines of what you're talking about is, as they're maturing into adulthood, our role as parents is not to make them act a certain way. Like, I think a lot of times we get into this mindset of, I need to make sure my kids turn out a certain way, that they behave a certain way, because that means I've done my job as a parent. But then you get locked into these power struggles where you try and make them do something, they say no, and it's like, well, I'm not going to lose to my kids, so I have to go bigger, louder, meaner, harsher until they yield. And the problem with teenagers is now they're at a stage where they will do the same thing back, and it just escalates and gets terrible. It just gets ugly. And so our role as parents, in my view, and what I tell my clients is, your role is to teach them that choices have consequences. And to give them options with consequences and literally let them choose, understanding that sometimes they will choose the wrong thing, and you will just need to follow through on the consequence.
Right. Well, and don't try to mitigate the consequence, and allow natural consequences to happen as best you can, because there's definitely a saving mentality, trying to save children from their choices.
Yeah, like the natural consequence, if you treat me poorly, then I'm going to have you go to your room because I don't want to be around you, because I'm teaching you a lesson. If you treat people poorly, they're not going to want it. That's a natural consequence. They don't want to be around you, right? And so we guide them into adulthood by not trying to control, but just showing, hey, you have free will. You don't have to do this. I'm just telling you what's going to happen if you don't versus what's going to happen if you do.
Well, and I liked what you said earlier about the privileges, right? Because so often certain things are just assumed, and this is my right. And that's always been a conversation in our home. Like, this is a privilege. And we've traveled and we've homeschooled, so that creates another family dynamic, when you're teaching your children. And so many times we've had the conversation of having an education is a privilege. Having math to do is a privilege. And if that's not a privilege you want, well, that's great. Just go sit in your room. And they're like, oh.
Sooner or later, they do their math.
And we've found with the punishments or the consequences, whatever you will, we could harp on that all day on what they did wrong. We also have taught them the ICM process, which is what I teach, about identify, clarify, and magnify your talents and skills. So when we see them do something well, we really point it out.
Yeah.
Right? And
They
then
need the
they can,
reinforcement.
then they can say, oh, that's what I'm good at. That's what I should do more of. And we go, that's awesome. And when they do something wrong, we're like, that's not that one guy, right?
Yeah.
Well, and celebrating the wins, not just being like, oh, here's the thing that you did that didn't work for me. It's expressing expressing the positive.
If you do what you're supposed to do, what do you want to medal? Like, I know parents like that, and it's like they're only pointing out the flaws, and that's not a healthy dynamic.
I was just going to say a little example of that I was thinking of with our daughter. She has a job. She's 15 and has a job. And last weekend, her ride came to pick her up. And she was scrambling at the last minute. She was not ready. We tried to wake her up all morning, and she was not ready to go to work. And so we told her ride, just go without her. And she was devastated that she missed her ride to work because she needs the money. She wants to work. But she stayed home all day Saturday while her brother went. And I think that taught her a lesson. Like, if I'm not prepared, I'm gonna get left. Like, there's a consequence for my own action. And we stayed calm. We've learned that we can't be screaming and getting mad at them, that we just try to stay calm and just let them kind of figure it out.
The way I figure, if you're doing parenting right, your kids are going to be upset with you quite a bit of the time.
Yeah.
As long as they're not upset with you because you've lost control or disrespected them or been harsh with them. If they're just upset with you because you followed through on consequences, it just means you're doing it right. So we want to thank the Hewletts for joining us today. You've been very insightful, very entertaining. I've very much enjoyed this series of couples talk with you. I imagine Alicia has as well. Have you?
I have.
All right.
This has been fabulous.
So we want to thank you for joining us. And for those of you watching at home, what is your best how to raise a teenager advice? Right? How do you make it through those hard times? Let us know in the comments below. Or if you have questions about raising teenagers, hit us up there and we will gladly answer them. Where can they check you out online, actually? I wanted to have you speak for yourself. You've got a book and a website.
Yeah, the book is The Promise to the One. It's about promises we make and keep to ourselves, for ourselves, and it's available on Amazon.
Which is where everything starts.
Everything
like you can't
starts.
do that with anybody else, so you do it with yourself.
That's right. That's right. It's all about the promise to ourselves. So, and then jasonhewlett.com as the website where
Can they see your videos? Can they book you? Is that where all the magic happens?
that's where they see this and they see this. And
Oh,
they
wow.
see all the funny, weird stuff.
The droid is malfunctioning. Somebody get maintenance in here. We also want to direct you to this video, How to Avoid Burnout, because stress is real, and especially when parenting teenagers, compassion fatigue. It's a thing.
If you'd like to join us in the future for Couples Talk, please comment below and let us know.
Be our guest. Be our guest. If you enjoy what we're doing here, please like, subscribe, and share. Our mission here is to help you heal and grow so you can be the best version of yourself. Until next time, let your light shine because we need you.